Don't just give up because you think you're not special. Gotta take an arrow to the heavens if you want to root out evil.
Hey, welcome back to the channel. So in this episode, we're going to talk about Louis. And he is a really good expert, like a very strong one. And I still use him until today because he has a very unique ability that makes him able to deal even more damage than a legendary esper. So let's take a look what makes him really good. Starting with the first skill. Attacks one enemy 3 times, damage per hit 55% attack. Just from this skill alone, you can see how much damage he can deal. Like that is per hit. So 3 times of that means that you're gonna deal 165% of your attack damage just from your first skill. So like as usual, I'm gonna compare this to the benchmark. Like every single esper usually have 120% attack damage on their first skill. So 165% attack from a first skill is very high. And each hit has a 40% chance of inflicting sear for 2 turns. The chance is really small, but the sear here is actually quite easy to apply because you have 3 chances for the sear to get applied to stick on your target. So this is quite alright, like even though it's not that reliable, but you can count this as like 50-50 chance. Like it is quite equal to if this thing hits for 1 time, like for other esper, some attack that hits 1 time and has a 75% chance of applying sear, gonna have a similar feeling of chances to this one, because this one hits 3 times. So this skill deal a ton of damage, and sear is a rare debuff, like usually you have a ton of esper that can apply defense down, but if you do want to deal as much damage as possible, like you do need to apply defense down and sear to your target, especially in a boss fight. And the thing about sear is that it also increases the damage from poison, sear, and percentage HP damage, and true damage. Like sear increase all those damage because it increases 25% of damage taken, no matter where the source of damage taken come from. So hence, this is insanely good. And the reason why the first skill deals so much damage is because the second ability is a passive. So Luigi only have the third skill and the first skill to deal damage to his enemy, so he gonna use his first skill a lot after he uses his third skill. Now the passive attacks have 15% chance of dealing extra true damage, and the true damage is 10% of the target's maximum HP up to 100% of Luigi's attack, and upon a crit increases the chance to 30%. Bear in mind that this is attacks have a 15% chance of dealing extra true damage, so every single attack that Luigi deal have a chance of dealing this true damage per hit. And that's the thing, this is the things that you want get the first time you see the skill description from Luigi. Only after you use him a lot of times, then you will realize that every single one of his hit has a chance to deal 10% of the target's maximum HP. So if all 3 attacks from the first ability, you get lucky on that, you deal 30% of the target's maximum HP. And the thing is that it has a limit, like an upper limit, because it stops at 100% of Luigi's attack. So you do want to increase your upper limit as much as possible, and also you do want to increase his critical chance to increase the chance of this thing happening to 30%. Hence why his stats, if you want, you can go as high as possible on the attack bonus in here and also critical rate. You don't really go for critical damage for Lee, although it is situational. Like if you fight against boss, obviously your percentage HP damage is gonna deal far higher damage than your critical damage. But if you fight against a normal enemies that have a normal amount of HP, then your critical damage is gonna deal more than your true damage coming from your percentage HP damage. So you can build him both ways depending on where you use him. But nowadays, Luigi is not so much useful in other PvE content. He is much stronger and more useful in a boss fight situation. And the reason is because of his third skill. His third skill attacks random enemies 9 times. This is the highest multi-hit skill in the entire Dislyte game. 9 multi-hits attack. And damage per hit is 45% attack if you give him a Limon. So in total, he gonna deal 415%. I believe it's 405% attack damage. Imagine that. That is 400% attack in a single skill cast. And if you can hit those damage to a single enemy, yeah, you can imagine how much damage this can deal. Like the other comparable amount of damage that can deal this much damage is probably just Gaius against a single enemy, because Gaius damage, because Gaius equipment, he doesn't need critical rate at all, so you can just go crazy on attack bonus and critical damage, hence why he got supported by this equipment. But for Liu's case, he doesn't have that kind of support, and you need to still split your stats into attack bonus, critical rate, and critical damage, but still he deals comparable damage to Gaius with just this skill, with just that kind of equipment, without any with some handicap like that. So that's why this thing is still kind of like irreplaceable, although the thing is that he doesn't really provide that much utility compared to other legendary esper. So it is reasonable for a lot of a pay to win players or a higher level player to not use him anymore, because in a battle where you can only bring 5 esper, you do want to have as much utility as possible, as much debuff as possible, not only just giving seer and bleed and damage. So this skill also, its hit has a 60% chance of inflicting bleed, which is quite good. And we're gonna talk about this when we get to his resonance later. So bleed gives the carriers damage every time they take a turn. It is 75% of the caster's attack as damage. So if you can give Liu a high accuracy and you give like 9 stacks of bleed to a single enemy, like you can imagine the moment that enemy move, how much damage he can receive. Like 9 times 75% is kind of like around 600% attack or something. So on top of 400% attack, they're gonna receive another 600% attack, Lui's attack the moment they move, if you can give the like 9 stacks of bleed. But it is not as important as just increasing his attack bonus and critical rate, because still the enemy resists play part in here, so you cannot really rely on just your bleed stack. So it is much better to just increase your upper limit for your percentage HP damage rather than putting more bleed. But it is, it is still something that you do want to put on your enemy. So like around 40% accuracy is recommended. This is good enough for you to gamble your way to put your bleed, but you don't want to waste too much substats on accuracy. Now for every debuff the target has, damage plus 5%. This comes from his 6 resonance, and hence why I told you previously that you do want to try to still put some bleed on your target. But because this is a team effort, like you don't bring Lui alone in your lineup, you can rely on your other esper to put other debuffs on your target. Hence why if the enemy have 12 kinds of debuffs, like that's the maximum number of debuffs the enemy have, so 12 times 5% means that they receive an increase of 60% more damage from this third skill. So that is an insane number. Like in total you're gonna deal 460% damage to your target just from the third skill alone. And in a boss fight situation, usually the boss is alone, and hence why Lui can deal a very, very high amount of damage. And the thing is that because of his passive, this applies for every single multi-hit the third skill deal. So you have 9 chances to deal 10% of the enemy's maximum HP as true damage. So if you can get lucky and trigger all 9 of your multi-hits, you're gonna deal 90% of the enemy's maximum HP as damage. How insane is that? Like there was a long time ago a trial in an event where it increases your Esper's attack damage significantly, and I managed to deal 1,000,000 damage using Louis. It was 1 million or 10 million. I forgot. I'm gonna find a screenshot for it. Like you can go to through my post. And probably I think I got a video out of that. I forgot. Like he managed to deal 1,000,000 damage by himself, like or 10 million, because of that. So yeah, he is really strong, really good in boss fight, and it's also supported by his captain ability. Like the game developer already put you a huge hint in his captain ability. Like he's really good in a boss fight here. Sentinel Hunt and Falsetto Fantasy here. He increased allies attack by 30%, which is huge. So you can always use Louis as your captain in Sentinel Hunt and Falsetto Fantasy if you still don't have that many legendary experts to choose from. And also because of his multi-hits, like he hits a lot of time, he also really good in Fafnir. So if you don't have a reliable lineup using Yuxu, like I currently use Yuxu, Mateo, Gabriel, Sienna, and Ahmed for my Fafnir lineup. But previously, before Yuxu came around, and also because I need to give her buff, so I need Sienna, even though Sienna doesn't do multi-hit. So I kind of like replaced my Louis. But a long time ago, Louis is a core in every single Fafnir team. So if you can still use him. It depends on whether you have upgraded your Yuxu or not. But he is one of the best choices in Fafnir run. Now going into the growth advancements, obviously I recommend you so very much to level up Louis to level 60 as soon as possible, because he is really strong against very high HP enemies. So he can also help you go through Temporal Tower, Infinity Tower, like a lot of PvE stages if you still don't have that much DPS to use for. And also because they all usually have a very high HP, his percentage HP damage here gonna come out as a ton of damage here. So yeah, you don't really want to just stop Louis at level 50. He is much better, much stronger at level 60, and I believe it's pretty much kind of like useless to keep Louis at level 50 because he is a DPS as a main DPS at that. Now going to his resonance, like the first one, Sky Shot, final damage plus 10%. Sky Shot is the third skill, so really good. Now going to the second resonance, heals upon killing an enemy, healing 25% maximum HP. This is not useful in a boss fight, but in a PvE content, like I said, in Infinity Tower, this can help Louis survive a little bit, so quite alright. Now the fourth resonance is really strong. Upon a crit, 18% chance of dispelling one buff from the target. This is very much referring to Fafnir, because in Fafnir you do need to take away Fafnir's buff, the mirror shard, I believe. So you just gotta have to increase his critical rate chance in here, like to a high number, and you can pretty much trigger this. Like you have a chance, another chance, like 18% chance of displaying one buff from the target. But this is really good, not only in a Fafnir situation, in other situation you can try to gamble on this, and he can help removing a boss buff. Like especially in Dark Star Lord, if the boss manages to get a buff, then Louis have a chance to dispel those buffs. Now going into the sixth resonance, this is the one that increase your Louis damage for every debuff the target has. Like I said, this can be contributed by your other Esper. Now going into his Ascension, this is really good. The first one is attack, the second one is HP. Like I always say, a defense is useless for a squishy Esper, so I do prefer HP in the second one. The third one is the one that increase the chance upon a crit to 30%. Now the fourth increase critical damage, fifth attack, sixth attack. So you can see that attack is very important for Lu Yi, because you want to maximize his passive in here to deal as much percentage HP damage as possible. Because if he doesn't have high attack, he gonna have a limit. Even though the enemy have high HP, you won't deal that much percentage HP damage because it is limited by your own attack. So increase your attack bonus as high as possible, like mine have plus 5,000 attack there. Now, to his rival rune, if you do want to use him, the equipment is also on point. Like they give him War Machine. Like if he hits a high percentage HP, high HP enemy, then he can still make use of his true damage. But against player enemies, like they don't have that much HP compared to PvE content. So you better not use Lu Yi in PvE, in PvP, and also he doesn't contribute in disabling the enemy at all. Like he just bring damage to your team. But because the enemy is only 5 and usually they have low HP, if you use Lu Yi and you can increase his damage by attack up and critical damage up, like his third skill will be able to flatten the entire enemy team if they are all squishy. So that's why, yeah, long time ago, like Lu Yi is a really strong choice in a guild battle, because long time ago there was a guild battle mode that fight Esper 3 versus 3, like 3 Esper versus 3 Esper. So the less enemy you have, the higher damage Lu Yi will deal. So obviously in a 3v3 situation, you're gonna deal a ton of damage, and also because of that, with the same logic, you can pair him up with Liao or Tolan, because Tolan will remove one enemy, and that makes you fight against 4 enemies. And Lu Yi's third skill is going to only randomly hit 4 enemies, hence making per enemy get more hit. So also the equipment avatar here is quite alright. Like you're gonna be able to still deal damage outside your turn, and the first skill also deal very high damage. So it's really good to give him this avatar in here. But there are more better choices for you to give rival rune in PvP compared to Lu Yi. So usually people don't want to waste rival rune on Lu Yi. That is understandable. So yeah, this is just like an option that you can choose. Now going into his Divinate, where the base HP is full, Phoenix Arrow's final damage plus 50%. Phoenix Arrows is the first skill. So yeah, really good, really strong. It adds to his overall damage, like his total damage. So yeah, Lu Yi, a very good Esper. And up until now, I still use him in Falsetto Fantasy. Like here, I still use him in Dark Star Lord in here, because of his ability to dispel the enemy buff, and also because of his multi-hit. And I pair him up with Mateo, because Mateo will be able to give a spark debuff on the enemy that makes the enemy receive extra damage for every single multi-hit the enemy has. So obviously pairing Mateo with Lu Yi will give Lu Yi the ability to get a bonus hit 9 times out of Mateo's spark. And also I pair them up with Chloe, the same Esper that can also deal a lot of multi-hits. So you can imagine like this team deals a ton of bonus damage coming from Mateo. So really good option, and you can try to use that too. And yeah, I guess that's Lu Yi for you. Now here's the testing of Lu Yi's damage in VR Battleground. I specifically choose enemies at level 100 because that's gonna give them the highest amount of HP that they can have. So I'm gonna show you the difference between Lu Yi's normal attack damage and his true damage. Like the more HP the enemy has, the more damage he can deal. So looking at his damage right here, we're gonna slow down the damage. You do want to see the difference in number. Look at this. Now, one of the damage have 1600 and some damage have 8000 damage in there. So if you pause the video and look at the number, you can see the difference and you can totally find out which one is the true damage that comes from the percentage HP damage and which one you get unlucky and only deal Louis' normal attack damage. So that is the difference between percentage HP damage against high HP enemies and Louis' own attack damage. So that's why if you can get lucky and all of 9 of his multi-hits can get the percentage HP damage, then you're gonna deal a ton of damage. You can see from the difference in SP here, like on the other enemies, like they don't seem to get their HP reduced, but for this enemy, like he got lucky and get hit with more percentage HP damage, so his HP gets down a lot. Now we can also see again like 7000, 7000 and 2000 there. So obviously the 2000 is the one that you get unlucky and didn't get the true damage from the percentage HP damage, but the 7000 is the one that you get lucky. So you can see that the chance is quite high, you know, because he hits a lot of times. So you can totally see the difference in damage. And if you can buff him up with attack up and then, you know, a seer, and if the enemy has seer, and also nowadays we have Chu Yao who can give the enemy calamity, that will also increase Louis' final damage from his true damage that comes from the enemy's maximum HP. So yeah, that's how much damage Louis can deal. So you can already imagine against a boss fight, the boss has 1 million HP and 10% of that is 100,000 damage. But obviously Louis don't have that much attack bonus, so he gonna reach a cap on how much damage he can deal with that percentage HP damage as true damage. But you can still expect that it's a lot. So that's all the information I have for Louis. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.